In 2019, Dana had $800,000 saved. Good job, no debt, maxing her retirement every year. By 2024, she had less than $200,000 left. No crash wiped her out, no scam, just 5 quiet mistakes that felt like smart decisions at the time. And by the time she saw them, it was too late to undo any of them. I want to show you those exact mistakes today because they are not rare, they are not dramatic, and that is exactly what makes them dangerous. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The traps that destroy wealth are not the obvious ones. They are the ones that look like confidence, look like progress, look like you finally have your life together. And the more your net worth grows, the harder they are to see coming. Let's start with the first one, which is something called overconcentration. And this is where most people get ambushed early. Think about what happens when your portfolio starts doing well. You got some wins. Maybe one stock or one position is carrying the majority of your returns, and it feels incredible. It feels like you've figured something out. So you let it ride. You keep adding to it. And then slowly, quietly, that single position starts representing 20, 30, maybe 40% of everything you have. Financial advisors and portfolio managers watch for this one specifically. The general benchmark is this: no single stock should represent more than 5 to 10% of your total holdings. Once you cross that line, you are not investing anymore. You are betting. You have stopped asking, "How do I grow this?" and started asking, "Please just let this keep working." Those are two very different questions, and the second one has cost a lot of people a lot of money. The reason this trap is so common is that concentration actually works until it doesn't. And when it stops working, the correction is usually fast and brutal because you never had enough diversification to cushion the fall.
The second trap hits differently. It is not about your portfolio at all. It is about your habits. And it is called lifestyle creep, which is when your expenses quietly expand to match whatever you are currently earning. Here is the number that should stop you cold. According to PYMTNT's intelligence, 48% of Americans earning over $100,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. Let that land. These are not people who are struggling. These are people with 6-figure salaries who have essentially nothing left at the end of the month. Because as their income went up, so did everything else. The car, the apartment, the subscriptions, the dinners, the habits, all of it crept up. And it goes even higher. More than a third of people making over $200,000 a year say the same thing. According to a Bank of America Institute analysis, the share of higher income households living paycheck to paycheck has barely budged in recent years, and the primary driver is not hardship. It is lifestyle inflation. It is bigger mortgages on the aspirations of future raises. It is education costs, nicer cars, the general creep of, "I can afford this now." And the terrifying thing is that it never feels like a mistake. It always feels earned. The truth about wealth, and this is the thing that separates people who actually build it from people who just earn a lot, is that your lifestyle has to be slower than your income. Always. The moment those two lines cross and your spending catches your earning, you stop building wealth and start maintaining appearances. Trap 3 is one most people genuinely do not think about until it's way too late, and that is being tax inefficient with how you invest. Taxes are probably the single largest expense in your financial life. More than your rent, more than your car, more than anything else that comes out of your pocket each year. And unlike most expenses, you actually have real control over how much you pay if you understand the rules. The most common mistake I see: people hold high dividend stocks in a regular taxable brokerage account instead of a tax-advantaged account like a Roth IRA. Every time that dividend hits, the IRS takes a cut. Every single time. Meanwhile, that same stock sitting inside a Roth grows completely tax-free. Same stock, completely different outcome, just based on where you put it. Then there is holding periods. If you sell a position you have held for less than a year, you are paying short-term capital gains rates, which are taxed as ordinary income, meaning anywhere from 10 to 37% of that gain disappears immediately. Wait 12 months and you qualify for long-term capital gains rates, 0, 15, or 20% depending on your income. That is not a small difference. On a $50,000 gain, that difference could easily be $8,000 or more, gone purely because of when you sold. Max your 401k, max your IRA if you are eligible. If your employer offers an HSA, use it. That one is triple tax advantaged, and most people completely ignore it. And look into tax loss harvesting before the end of every year. Strategically selling positions that are down to offset gains you have already realized is one of the most underused tools in personal finance. The IRS is going to take their cut no matter what. Your job is to make sure that cut is as small as legally possible. Trap 4 is something a lot of people know they should probably look at and then just never do. It is being lazy about refinancing when it could save you tens of thousands of dollars. The rule of thumb that most financial planners use is this: if your mortgage rate drops by at least 1%, refinancing is worth running the numbers on. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. Say you have a $400,000 mortgage at 7%. Your monthly payment is around $2,661. If rates drop to 6%, that payment falls to around $2,398. That's $263 a month back in your pocket. Over 12 months, that's over $3,100. Over 5 years, that is more than $15,000.
Yes, refinancing costs money, usually 2 to 3% of the loan. So on $400,000, you might be looking at $8,000 to $12,000 up front. At $263 a month in savings, you break even in roughly 38 months. If you plan to stay in that house for 5 or more years, the math is not even close. It works. The mistake most people make is they feel like refinancing is complicated, and then they just never get around to it. Meanwhile, they leave thousands sitting on the table every single year. If you locked in a rate during 2023 or 2024 when rates peaked, it is worth pulling up a comparison tool right now and just seeing where things stand. Trap 5 is the one that surprises people because it has nothing to do with a spreadsheet. It is about something you cannot buy back no matter how much money you eventually make, and that is your time. One of the most common patterns among high earners is that they work more as their income grows, not less. The raises come, the promotions come, and instead of protecting their time, they just pour more of it into the job. But here's the thing. As your net worth builds, your time starts to become exponentially more valuable than your labor. Think about it this way. If you have $500,000 invested at a conservative 7% return, your money is generating roughly $35,000 a year while you sleep, while you're on vacation, while you're doing anything other than working. At $1 million, that number doubles. At some point, an extra hour at your desk starts to have genuinely diminishing returns compared to what your capital is already doing for you. And the people who never do that math, who never ask themselves that question, tend to get to 60 and realize they traded their best years for a salary they did not need to keep chasing. Work hard when you're building, absolutely. But as your net worth grows, audit your time like you audit your portfolio. It deserves the same level of attention.
Trap 6 is the one that tends to hit people who are actually doing well, which is overconfidence from early success. Here is the way this usually works. You get a few good years in the market, maybe you picked some stocks that performed well in 2023 and 2024 when a lot of things were going up, and suddenly you start to believe that you have a skill, not just timing. So you double down, you concentrate further, you start taking positions you would never have touched 2 years ago. You feel like you have figured something out the market has not figured out about itself yet. According to FINRA, around 72% of active retail day traders end the year with net losses. Academic research from the Taiwan Stock Exchange, one of the most comprehensive long-term studies ever done on this, found that fewer than 1% of active day traders were able to maintain consistent profits after accounting for fees. Not 90% failing, not even 95%. Fewer than 1% succeeding over the long run. The hard truth is that a 2 or 3 year run in a bull market does not make you a great investor. It might just mean you were positioned well during a period when almost everything went up. The longer you let that overconfidence go unchecked, the more exposed you become when the cycle turns, because you have usually increased your risk exactly at the moment when you should have been pulling back. Trap 7 is what happens when your finances start to look impressive on paper and quietly become impossible to actually manage, which is financial complexity. As your net worth grows, you accumulate things: multiple brokerage accounts, multiple bank accounts, maybe some angel investments or a real estate partnership. And at first, having all of this feels like sophistication. It feels like you are serious about money. But the more moving pieces you have, the easier it becomes to miss something important: a hidden fee, a misunderstood risk, a position you forgot you were even in. The blind spots that complexity creates are not traumatic. They're quiet. A fee you did not notice because the account has 20 line items. A risk exposure you did not realize you had because your holdings are spread across 4 different platforms. This is the kind of
Does not look like a problem until something breaks, and by then it usually costs more to fix than it ever would have cost to prevent. If your financial picture is getting complicated enough that you struggle to describe all of it in 5 minutes, that is probably the signal to bring in a professional. Not because you cannot manage it yourself, but because complexity is where even smart people start making expensive mistakes. Trap 8 is something that affects more people than you would expect, especially people who have done everything right on the asset side of the ledger. It is being asset rich, but cash poor, meaning most of your wealth is tied up in things you cannot actually access. Federal Reserve data shows that for households with a net worth between $1 and $2 million, roughly 66% of that wealth is locked up in a primary home and retirement accounts. On paper, they are millionaires. In practice, if an opportunity comes up tomorrow or an emergency hits next week, they cannot move quickly because their wealth is not liquid. The standard recommendation is 3 to 6 months of living expenses in accessible cash at all times. But if your net worth is actively growing, I would argue for keeping more than that on hand, not because emergencies are likely, but because opportunities are. A distressed investment, a business deal, a chance to buy something at the right price at the right moment. All of these require cash that moves fast. The biggest mistake people make is committing money to something illiquid that they might actually need and then finding out the hard way that they cannot get it back in time. Before you lock money into anything, a real estate deal, a private investment, anything with a long hold period, ask yourself honestly, is there any world where I need this money back in the next 2 to 3 years? If the answer is maybe, that money does not belong in that investment.
Trap 9 is one that the data says most Americans are already in the middle of, whether they realize it or not, and that is delaying the start of retirement savings. Here is what the math actually looks like on this. According to research based on historical market return assumptions, a 25-year-old who puts $200 a month into a retirement account earning 7% annually could have around $512,000 by age 65. The same person, starting at 35 with the same contribution, ends up with roughly $242,000. Same amount saved each month. The difference is 10 years, and that 10-year gap nearly cuts the outcome in half. The reason most people delay is not ignorance. It is the sense that there are more pressing things right now: student loans, rent, a car, and all of that is real. But what the math shows is that the cost of waiting is not linear. It compounds. Every year you wait, the gap between what you will have and what you could have gotten wider, not by the same amount each year, but by an accelerating amount. The clearest rule I can give you on this: save at least half of every raise you get. If your salary goes from $80,000 to $90,000, that extra $10,000 a year did not exist in your life before. You were surviving without it. Put at least half of it directly into retirement before your lifestyle has a chance to absorb it. Do that consistently, and you will be ahead of almost everyone you know. And trap 10, the last one, and the one that quietly undoes everything else, is being underinsured as your net worth grows.
Most people set up their insurance once, when they first get a car, when they first rent an apartment, when they first buy a house, and then they essentially forget about it. But here's the problem. As your net worth grows, your exposure grows with it. Your home is worth more, you have more assets that can be targeted, and your insurance coverage, which has not been updated in 5 years, still reflects the financial life you had back then, not the one you have now.
If something happens to your home, your car, or your health, and your coverage has not kept pace with what things actually cost, the gap comes out of your net worth. That is money you spent years building, gone, not because of a bad investment or a market crash, but because you forgot to update a policy. Make it a habit. Once a year, sit down with your insurer and confirm that every coverage number reflects what your assets are actually worth today. It takes an hour. The difference between being properly covered and being underinsured can be the difference between a setback and a catastrophe. Here's the thing I want you to take away from all of this. Dana did not lose $600,000 because she was reckless. She lost it because she was doing things that looked completely reasonable from the outside, and even to her. The traps we talked about today are not exceptions, they are patterns. They repeat across thousands of people every year, at every income level, in every decade of life. Knowing about them does not make you immune, but it puts you in a completely different position, because you can see them coming before they have already cost you something you cannot get back. If this video helped you see something you needed to see, I will leave the next one right up here. See you there.